Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and today's video is going to be a little more work on the 24-inch finger brake that I introduced a few videos back. Today we're going to make a handle for the left side. As you recall in the previous video where I did the setback adjustment knobs on it, I showed that it only had a handle on the right hand side. Today we're going to make one for the left-hand side, and that's going to involve some turning on the lathe, some boring on the mill, and hopefully some broaching on the press. Now I'm sure everything on that, I know the nuts and bolts and set screws and whatever are metric. My broach set is SAE. Hopefully there's one close enough that I won't have to file the keyway out for the handle we'll be making. But before we get on that, I want to point something out. In a video, I guess it's been over a month ago now, Randy Richards showed mounting his a monitor on the wall and attaching it to his camera. I believe he was using just a standard cabling between his camera and his monitor. Well, I had a little 18-inch TV that I was out here that I was using as a monitor on the computer I've got out here, basically a server that I never really used the screen on. And I mounted it up on the wall and mounted it between my lathe and mill. And that worked very well, running an HDMI cable from the camera to the monitor. And I was able to see that, as you know, recording videos, there's a lot of times you got to get the camera in position where the viewfinder is not really in a position where you can see where you actually do have the camera pointed. As I said, that setup worked good, but the problem was it only worked cabling between the camera and the monitor. And if I wanted to move the camera over to the other side of the tin barn or back behind, back in the corner over here where the surface grinder is, didn't have enough cable, and it would have been messy pulling the cable back and forth anyhow. But I got to researching a little bit, and I found there's such a thing as wireless HDMI. And you'll see above me up here, I went ahead and upgraded to a 32-inch smart TV. With that, not only can I use it as a monitor for the camera, but I watch the YouTube videos out here, listen to Pandora when I'm not recording. But it's not wired. This mounted on the wall right here is a receiver, HDMI receiver. And on the camera itself is an HDMI transmitter. And the specifications clearly say on that this is not for a through-the-wall installation. This is for pretty much line of sight. The way I'm set up here in the tin barn, with this in the corner up here, the receiver and the monitor mounted in the corner, I can get anywhere in the shop area of the tin barn if I want to set the camera on a tripod or handheld, ever how I want to use it, and be able to see this monitor and transmit the image there. So I just wanted to point that out. Several folks had posted about it, or I had posted about it on Facebook, and several folks had said they'd like some particulars on it. But as you can, I got this from Amazon. It's called Tech Digital. The zoom up should give you an idea of what to search for on Amazon. So let me get the camera repositioned around over on the brake, on the finger brake, and I'll show you what we're going to try to replicate on that for the handle on the left side. I've got the camera turned around now to the back side of the finger brake, pan and box brake, and I'm going to zoom in a little tighter on the handle itself. This piece right here is what we're going to want to replicate today. There is mount on the other end down here on the left side that this will fit on, or a replica of this will fit on. So all right, right here's what we want to replicate. Again, I'll turn the camera around to the bench. This has a key in here. This has of course, a hole in it with a keyway. That is what I'll have to check to see if I have got a matching broach for that. Well, we're going to turn this piece on the lathe, bore this, probably have to bore it to get it to size on the mill and make the handle. Got a piece of this rusty stock that you've probably seen me use many times in the past. This started out as 2-inch piece. I'm going to make a pass all the way down, try to clean up some of the rust, and then we'll start measuring for our actual dimension. I'm going to take about 60 thousandths to start with. I got most of the rust off. There's still a few pits down here, but this is plenty close enough to get our overall length. Our length measurement, 1.654. I'm going to go mark about 2 inches off. And I'm going to set my carriage stop. May need more of this piece on a later project, so I'll not turn down any more than I'll need for this project, other than enough to face off the end. That's 1.905. And we need 1.775. So let me see if I can get a dimension set on the DRO. Okay, well, I'm going to make just another little pass, and then we'll get a measurement. I want to get my tool set at a good valid 0. Alright, now with my tool set in place, I'll zero out the x-axis. And for this first measurement, calipers will be plenty fine, this outside dimension. That's 1.887. And if we subtract 1.775, it's 112 thousandths that we're going to want off of the overall length. I'll take 60 thousandths on the first pass. Let's see, I got my coolant going. My coolant was a little slow getting primed. All right, now we'll take the other about 50 thousandths left, 53. All right. Of course, that cleaned up all the rust pits on there. Now I'm going to get a measurement for this depth right here. Double check. Yeah, we got plenty to work with there. So I'll get my depth micrometer out and get a length on this. I've got the workpiece sitting up here, or the piece we want to duplicate. Okay, I carried a piece over to the workbench. This surface up here on top of the lathe was just not a comfortable place for me to measure it, so I carried it over to the workbench, measured it again where I could hold it steady. And the depth, I said 1.9 something, but it's actually 0.908. There was no 1 inch in there, so I'm going to set I'll set 0 on the z-axis, back out, and come to 0.908. I'm just going to go 900 thousandths. If it's a little bit short, that is perfectly fine, as long as it goes up on that rod and the keyway. So I've got the carriage stop set now, and the dimension we're looking on this is 1.415, so we got about 360 thousandths to go. I'm just going to set a 0. Set a 0 on the X, and then when we get, I don't know, when we take 300 thousandths off, then we'll start measuring. All right, so there was about 300 thousandths. So let's get a measurement now and see how close we are, or see what we got left to take. Okay, that's 1.465. And we're looking at 1.415. All right, that's exactly 50 thousandths. All right, so we've got that dimension set on the calculator, or set on the DRO. I'm going to take 40 of that and then get one more measurement. All right, that shows 13 thousandths left to take. All right, I'm not going to try to part this whole thing off on the lathe, but I will get a good cut started at the correct dimension and get a countersink on, and I'm going to, not a countersink, but a chamfer. I'm going to chamfer all these edges, but I'll carry it over to the bandsaw and finish the actual cut, then bring it back over here and face it. So we'll zero out the Z, and the overall length 1.653. I'm just going to put a little witness mark there, since this is not a critical dimension at all. I'm going to take the parting tool, and again, I don't plan to part the whole thing off with this, but if it cuts good, we may just let it go on in there for a ways. Need to get it squared up. Just using a 1, 2, 3 block only. Against the chuck to help get this squared up. All right, lock the carriage position down right there. We'll slow my RPM down. And I will definitely use cutting oil on this to get those chips out of there. Alright, that don't sound too good. Let's try a different parting tool. Alright, both of my parting tools, I don't know what's going on here. Got a lot of chatter in them. Tried some different RPMs, but that didn't seem to help. But I've got enough of a mark there that I can carry this over to the bandsaw. But before I do, I want to just chamfer some of these edges that are exposed right now. Normally don't have any problem parting. I may not have the height on those tools set proper. All right, I'm gonna, well, I started saying I was gonna carry this over to the bandsaw and part that off, but one other thing I wanna do first, just because I can. All right, I'm gonna put the lathe in reverse. And like I say, that's just because I can. So I'm going to carry this over to the bandsaw, and I'll bring you back when we face off that end. Okay, the bandsaw cut it off. If I'd known it was going to cut that good and clean and straight, I might have cut right onto the edge. But I'm going to put just a little bit of, just a little masking tape on this, just to face that in. It doesn't really matter if the tape actually puts it off center a little bit, because again, all we're going to do is face the end here. I've already got a chamfer on there. All right, here's our piece finished up. As far as on the lathe, we need to go over to the mill now and locate and bore our through hole that the rod will go through. Okay, we have this piece turned now on the lathe, getting ready to put a hole through. And this little project is going to turn out to be a bit more than what I expected. First off, this hole in here, that's the rod that goes through the entire length of the brake, is a 14 millimeter. I do not have a 14 millimeter drill bit, so we're going to have to bore that hole. I'll drill it out close, and then we'll use the boring head on the mill to bore it out to the 14 millimeter. That's not going to be an issue. What the issue is, though, is the broaching. And I'm probably not going to be able to do the broaching in this video, but I will do it in a follow-up video. The broaches I've got a 1/2 inch. Of course, it's 14 millimeters, about 0.551. So the 1/2 inch is way too small, and the 5/8 is too large. I did not even have a transfer punch. The 1/2 inch one I got is just too loose. So what I've done is take a piece of cold roll and put a point on it. Now, this don't have near enough carbon in it to try to harden it. So that point is probably only going to last for one punch, but that's all I needed to do. But we're going to punch and drill this and get everything, drill and bore this and get everything fitting. But I'll probably have to come back in another video where I'm going to take this same punch that I just made, remove this point off the end of it, put a shoulder up here, and make a brooch out of it. I've already ground this. Well, I didn't grind it. I did use the belt grinder on the lathe and got a good fit on that. So we'll use this for a broach. But like I say, I probably won't have time in this video to do it. But in the next one, we'll put the groove in there to hold the broach. And I believe this 1/8 broach that I've got here should be sufficient. That's a 4mm keyway. And it's going to be just a little bit slack, but I believe I can, if I have to, I can make a key to go in. So let's set this up. I'm going to put my new workpiece in this little vise right here with a V-block behind it. And set this in and transfer that. Again, we just need one good tap. All right, maybe we're going to need 2 good taps. Let me get a little coloring on that so I can see a little better. Again, the position of that hole right now doesn't make a bit of difference. The position of the handle in relation to this hole will make a difference, but we'll worry about that when it comes time to make the handle. Okay, now I got a mark. I should be able to take my hardened center punch now. Again, just double checking. All right, so we got a good point on there now. Let's go over to the mill. We'll get this piece set up on the mill. I'll drill it and then put the boring head in and bore it out. Got a workpiece in the lathe now, I'm sorry, in the mill now. And we're gonna, I'm gonna use a wiggler to locate that punch that we did over on the workbench. All right, I believe that's got it located. We'll lock the table down right there, plus I'll set zeros on the DRO in case we have to move to come back to that. Now we're gonna start with a center drill. I'm gonna drill this in several steps, just simply because I don't want to put a whole lot of strain on this. Don't have the best setup in the world to do the drilling here. My head moved down a little bit. All right, that's got it up to a 1/2 inch. I think I've got some boring bars. Yeah, there's one small enough to go in. And I think the length should be all right on that as well. So I'll get the boring head set up and bring you right back.